my mom is white, so does that mean I can only listen to like half of Chips and Salsa?
That's the smartest thing I've ever heard anyone say about anything.
And we are back with the Chips and Salsa show. Yeah, that was George talking, not me. Okay.
That was me. Blah, 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 blah.
My name is Alice Slada, and I'm here with
Don Jorge.
He's back. He's been gone for a while. He's got his beautiful hat from America Fest, Turning Point USA
Let's
event.
go, Brandon.
It was awesome. As promised, we have the lovely Gina Swoboda here.
Gina's back.
Gina is representing, this is a very important organization, Voter Reference Foundation. Did I get the name right?
You did, lady. Yes.
She's the executive director. So is that for Arizona?
No, I the whole country.
The whole
I'm the national
country.
director.
Worldwide.
Someday, perhaps someday. We'll start out with this country, the most amazing country in the world.
Yeah, let's take care of the United States first.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend the rest of the show talking to her about very important election issues. So I'm going to just give you a few seconds here. Tell your friends, tune in, and share. Now, if you miss any of this podcast, radio show, whatever you like to call it that we do, Chips and Salsa Show, you can always catch it on the app. Right?
Yep.
Central City Radio app, or go back to Facebook and rerun it, whatever you'd like to do, because you're going to have some very,
And we'll put it on YouTube.
Yeah, it goes up on YouTube. Important
And
information.
iHeartRadio will have it, but you just won't see our faces, but you'll hear our voices.
I have had the pleasure of knowing Gina for quite a few years now. We're good friends, and she's wonderful, super knowledgeable. I could totally see her. I bet, were you going to be an attorney ever at one time? I could just see you do
Yes,
that.
I am a paralegal, and I wanted to be a trial attorney.
I could totally see
and
that.
I had my beautiful baby girl, which was God had a plan, and I'm very grateful. It was the right thing in my life.
It probably worked out the best, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So tell us about this organization and what they do.
Thank you.
do
So the Voter Reference Foundation is dedicated to ensuring free and fair elections in the United States. I know a lot of us are hearing that from a whole lot of people. Basically, my purpose is to publish the voter registration rolls online for free, forever, for the entire country. And I have over 30% of the population already posted. If you go to voteref.com, VOTEREF.com, you can see a beautiful map with a list of the states, and they're in red when they're posted, and you click them, and you'll see every voter registered in that state. So you could look yourself up, look your relative up that you know moved, or God bless them, might have passed, and you can see their vote history. So you can see if someone's voting in an election that they were not around to be there for.
So, like you say, heaven forbid, but maybe you lost, maybe grandma passed away last year or something, and this happens often. You can go in there and you say, "Oh my gosh, grandma's still on the voter rolls."
Yes, and then you can, the idea is the country's founded on citizen participation, right? So the only people that can effectively clean the voter rolls are the people themselves. So we need to each take responsibility for our own voter record. I used to live in New York, and when I left New York, I canceled my voter registration. A lot of people don't think of doing that. You have a lot going on when you're moving, but you can look yourself up and make sure that your voter registration is canceled in your previous state.
Okay, so this is really cool. So, like, I used to live in New Mexico, so I'm here at your deal, and okay, I have to go see that, but for all I know, I could still be on the voter rolls, even though I haven't lived there for quite a few years.
This is true.
Anybody could. So it's probably a good idea, if you've ever moved, especially out of state, to go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, and what you would do is file an affidavit with the county clerk to remove yourself from the rolls. So that's one part of what we do.
Okay.
The other part of the website, I take the total ballots cast. So now I'm going to talk George's book, as they say. So the total ballots cast in an election, right? So that's also known as the turnout report. Not in a contest, not how many votes for president, the total ballots cast in a jurisdiction. So let's say Big Sky precinct in Montana. In that precinct, people cast 550 ballots in the 2020 election. Doesn't matter if they left the race blank. They could vote for one contest. They could vote for all of them. They cast a ballot, right? So you have the certified number, 550 ballots were cast in the Big Sky precinct. Then I look at the voter history file. So this is the certified data from the election officials. That's the only thing I look at. I don't look at anything else. And they show 500 voters have credit for voting in the Big Sky precinct. So you have a problem. You have a discrepancy of 50. You have 50 more ballots than you have voters. Why? Why are there 50 more ballots than there are voters? And that's the question. So in some states like Nevada, they delete people and their vote history when they move. So to me, that's like cutting my arm off. When I heard like they delete someone's vote history, I was like, hold on, Weezy, I'm coming. So, that's just never a good thing. And the reason they do that is their statewide voter registration system is not live time the way it is in Arizona for everything except Maricopa and Pima. Maricopa and Pima are not in, as of today, the AVID statewide voter registration database. Maricopa is joining, but Pima is not, which means Maricopa and Pima upload a file, and then that gets brought into the statewide database. So it's not a live time one-to-one. So in Nevada, if you move from Clark County to Elko County, Clark County deletes you. Elko County is going to start you as if you have no history. That's highly problematic for many reasons.
Yeah.
One of which is you can't reconcile after the election. Every organization, every business that, in this country, you have to reconcile your books. Why do we not reconcile the total number of voters and the total number of ballots?
Well, what I want to know, too, is they just delete the whole voter history. It seems like that would have to be like state laws or something that would tell you them not to do that, or they just not care about it, or what?
The HAVA Act, the Help America Vote Act, which is a federal law, says that every state needs to have a chief election official. So in Arizona, nothing in our Constitution says the Secretary of State is the chief election official. It's imputed that person will have that role. So we selected that after HAVA passed. And it also says you need this statewide voter registration database. The same thing that the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, which was called Motor Voter when it passed under Clinton, there are records need to be kept from an election for 22 months from the election. So you could say it's debatable whether or not a copy of the voter registration rolls as it existed on the day of election, you'd be shocked how many states do not keep a copy of that. The voter registration rolls it's a river, right? This is my analogy because, it's a river. It's constantly moving. People go inactive, they change their precinct, they die, they move, they cancel. You're trying to get a snapshot of the river in time, right? So I believe, as a matter of public policy, need to ensure that it is mandatory that every single state maintain a copy of what that voter registration roll looked like at the time of the election, because that's the only way you can ever go back after the fact and do this reconciliation between the ballots and the voter.
This just all makes sense to do that. It's just kind of you're blowing my mind, Gina. You're blowing my mind that it already isn't happening. Because and this is a perfect example of so many of us, we're American citizens, we think, man, America does everything right. And we have things in order and can verify and trust. Well, this is something, she's pointing out something super important that you can't.
And you know what? Don Jorge knows. I love the election officials of Arizona. I love our election officials nationwide, okay? I think they're, in general, overworked, underpaid, understaffed. However, now here comes the however, that's the New York accent coming out. They need to go to their legislatures. They need to ask for an appropriations bill. If they don't have the equipment and the systems necessary in order to do the one-to-one reconciliation, then it is absolutely one of our government's responsibilities that they should be doing, right, in our enumerated powers of our system of government, is carry out an election. I am less interested in them measuring the temperature of the concrete outside the dorm at ASU than I am in having them reconcile the books.
That is a perfect place to hold for a second, because we've got to go to commercial break. Got plenty more to talk to Gina Swoboda about with Voter Reference Foundation. I'm Alice Lada here with
Don Jorge.
Don't go away. We'll be right back to guac on some more election integrity.
sir. While I may not agree with what you say, I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
And it's time. It's already time, George, for the last segment of the Chips and Salsa Show. Boo-hoo. I'm Alice Lara, and I am here with
Don Jorge El Alacran.
my partner in radio crime, and our wonderful guest today with Voter Reference Foundation is my good friend Gina Swoboda.
Hello.
Gina.
We had a great first segment with her. My goodness gracious. And if you missed it, like I say, go back and listen again. She explained what Voter Reference Foundation was. And what I'm going to ask you, Gina, is, because we just have a limited time, what are some things, think about some bullet points or whatever things people really don't know about our whole voting system, and maybe something that we can do as regular voters and contact our officials, and what can we do to help correct this?
So you need to be responsible for your voter record, and you need to communicate to your family members and your friends that they too need to verify their voter record. In Arizona, if you register to vote on servicearizona.com, which is Arizona's like the first state that did online voter registration, and you don't and you don't select a party, it can default to a setting that you're not prepared for, and then you try to go vote in a primary and you can't. So Arizona is a semi-open primary state, right? What that means is in every primary except the presidential preference election, which technically is not a primary, thus preference election. If you're an independent or a party not declared, a PND, you can walk in on primary day and you can pick either the Democrat ballot or the Republican ballot, okay? But in the presidential preference election, which happens around St. Patrick's Day in a 4-year cycle, you can't do that. That's closed to the parties. Although there is a bill that the Democrats are running right now that would open it to independents, but I do not expect that the legislature will pass that in either party. However, you need to know what your voter registration status is. You need to keep an eye on your record. You need to make sure if you move that it's been updated. If your relative passes away, that it's been reported. If you have a nephew, so I'll get a little political if I may for a moment. If your progressive sister-in-law Sheila from Chicago, and you suspect she's voting your nephew Jimmy's ballot while Jimmy's registered at U of A in Tucson, you can go to voteref.com as soon as I load Illinois, and you can check the record and you can see, and then you can call Sheila and go, Sheila, I see that there are 2 ballots here for Jimmy. I know that's Jimmy. I know you're not going to do that anymore, Sheila. So without impinging on voter rights, without making the public feel awkward, help, I'm being suppressed. We don't want to do that. But you can do your own due diligence on your own record and your family's records, and each of us that does that makes a difference.
And it's not, if you go with it, it's not telling you Jimmy voted this way for this person. It's simply a matter of Jimmy voted.
Jimmy voted. We have the secret ballot, and thank God we do. We used to not have the secret ballot in this country, and that resulted in a lot of unfortunate incidents, which is why we now do have the secret ballot. You don't want your employer, your neighbor, your government to know how you voted. But yes, you can see if someone did indeed vote.
Now, I had an incident happen. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I got a letter from the DMV, and I had to upgrade my DMV registration. There's a little box there that if you don't put down your party, they remove you from the party. They remove you from the. I was removed from as a Republican, and I'm a state committee man. I've been in the Republican Party forever, and I was removed. I had to go and I had to call people, and I knew the right people to call
and
because
George,
I worked
let me
for
interrupt
the
you
county.
2 seconds. There wasn't a box that you checked that said independent or anything.
Right.
You just didn't check a box. That was
Well,
the problem.
Yeah.
That's the result of a settlement agreement that was entered into by Secretary of State Hobbs.
Yeah.
So I want to say it's the League of Women Voters, but the audience will check me if I'm wrong. It used to be when you moved from one precinct to another, okay, it did not automatically update in motor vehicle your voter registration to your correct new precinct. And if you were in a county that had in-precinct restrictions, such as Maricopa, and you were not at a vote center, you could wind up having a problem voting. So as part of that settlement, and again, there's a bill for that. There's a bill that will prevent any Secretary of State from entering into a consent decree without the county recorder's input. It's a very good bill. But to avoid that, they said, okay, we're going to automatically update the voter registrations of people who change their auto registration. That's what happened.
And the thing is, the only reason I knew about it is because I'm first vice chair of our legislative district. My secretary keeps on tabs of all our precinct committeemen and officers, and she noticed. She said, "George, you've been taking. Did you change parties?" And I was like, "No." And so that started the ball rolling, and I called people, and of course I knew the people to call because I worked for the county as a troubleshooter, and they corrected the problem right away. It went all the way to the top. But not everybody, everybody is like me that have people watching my back.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, a lot of, I'm a senior citizen. A lot of senior citizens will forget to mark certain boxes. So, you don't want to be taken off of a party because you just made a little mistake.
That would be a problem going in to vote for your.
Yeah. It is because you won't be able to pull that ballot if it was in the presidential preference. And so I would say, and if you're doing it online, there's a box that you won't notice that lets you opt out. So if you're changing your motor vehicle registration, there's a tiny little box that'll say opt out. Do not update my voter registration, because it's been known, not by me, but it's been known that there are people who perhaps have two homes, and your auto insurance for theft, and you can tell I'm a New Yorker when I say this, might be cheaper in one area than the other. And so people might want to register their vehicle and have their primary vehicle address, let's just say in Yavapai, but really they're spending most of their time in Maricopa. And if you go make that update and you don't check that box to opt out, you're going to get registered to vote in Yavapai, and they're going to cancel your Maricopa County voter registration. So be mindful.
Wow. Okay, we've got one minute.
How many people do we lose in the Republican Party that way?
We will never know how we. Give your information out so if somebody wants to contact you or.
Yes. Info at voterreferencefoundation.com. The website is voteref.com. Check it out.
Check it out. Gina, come back again. I mean, we barely touched the surface. We'll have more to talk about. It's been great. Thank you.
My pleasure. My honor.
She has a meeting tomorrow.
And no, we got to go.
Yeah, we're cut. We're cut. It's time.
I'm Alice Lara.
Don Jorge.
And,
blah, blah, blah.
and our great guest,
Gina Swoboda.
So be with us next Tuesday, 4 p.m. for the Chips and Salsa Show here on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix. We have a great guest. It's a guy that's going to run against Grijalva, so don't be with us. Okay, I mean, be with us, not don't be with us. Guac on with the Chips and Salsa Show.
Guac on.
Bye.
Thank you.
When you need to know, this is Talk Central, a Central